Good evening. Hope everybody can hear me. What with the inclement weather, our internet speed here, living out in the sticks, is incredibly slow. So yeah, I hope everybody can hear me. If someone can just let me know whether the sound and the picture is fine, it'd be greatly appreciated, because yeah, the weather here has been particularly bad. Great to see so many people joining us for what is the 8th week of the A Stroke of Luck Friday live sessions. Can't quite believe we've been doing this for 8 weeks now, but each week that we do it, I thoroughly enjoy it, and I become less and less nervous about doing these lives. Week 1, I was incredibly nervous and anxious, but I seem to be relaxing into it now. So thoroughly enjoy speaking to our guests, and we've had some great guests on the live sessions so far. And I hope everybody that's tuned in week after week has benefited from listening to people and their experience, or the organisations in which they represent. I hope it's been beneficial. It appears to be, with the feedback that we're getting and the number of people that keep joining us week after week. So I'm inspired to keep on doing these sessions, and I'm really looking forward to this evening's guest. So we've got someone tuning in from Australia, 3 a.m. in the morning. That's commitment. Welcome to the Friday live session, wherever you are in the world. We've had guests from Australia, America, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, through Europe, and it's great to see us being able to connect with people who have been impacted by stroke. I'm not sure whether those of you watching are aware, but the Stroke Association, obviously you probably are aware that A Stroke of Luck and the Stroke Association are in partnership now. But the Stroke Association have launched this week their Stroke Assembly, which launched on Tuesday, an address from their chief executive. And on Wednesday, I was asked to do a session, which I did with a gentleman by the name of Chris Larkin. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. And it was an opportunity, I guess, for me to talk about my story and how stroke has impacted me. I had my stroke, as most of you will know, only a couple of years ago. And it was a good platform for me to talk about my journey post-stroke and what things have supported my recovery journey. And one of those areas that I'm particularly passionate about, those of you that follow A Stroke of Luck, will be I'm incredibly focused on that support network around a survivor, which we branded as the A-Team, because I think without a support network, your recovery journey is much more challenged. So I spoke, and I always speak very honestly, that I think it's possible that a recovery journey can be a lot more positive with an A-Team and with a support network, and the stroke survivor needs to captain their A-Team, and they play to the strengths of the individuals or the organisations, charities, clinicians, whatever it may be, that make up that A-Team. And that's really the theme of this evening's session. We have a guest joining us by the name of John. Some of you may well have seen the stroke story we put out a few weeks ago. His daughter Elly, at the age of 19, had a stroke, and in fact she's celebrating her 1-year anniversary today. So we have John joining us this evening, who's Elly's father, and we're going to be talking about what it's like from a father's perspective, but the A-Team's perspective on supporting a young stroke survivor through their recovery journey. As I said, we did Elly's story a few weeks ago. It is her 1st year anniversary today, and that's something to be celebrated. I absolutely believe that. Every survivor should celebrate the day they survived their stroke, because it is a huge milestone, and each year you progress and your recovery journey continues. It's great to see so many people joining this live session. It really is, and I'm sure you're all going to get an awful lot from it. So without further ado, I am going to invite John to join me, and we'll have a conversation. I know that John is going to be logging in through Elly's account, so I'm just looking for that. I found it, and hopefully you'll be able to join me in a second or two, John. There we are.
Yeah.
Can you hear and see me?
Yeah,
guys?
we can see. Yeah.
Good stuff. How are you?
Yeah, we're good. You okay?
Yeah, very well, thank you. So I just mentioned John and Ellie. It's your 1 year anniversary today, Ellie, from your stroke. So kind of congratulations.
Thank you.
I've seen and I've watched your recovery journey ever since I engaged with you and your dad on social media. I've watched your progress and it's been incredible. And there's nothing more to say except for well done and keep going. Keep going
Yeah,
because you're
thank
an
you.
inspiration. You really are an inspiration. So, John, is it all right if we have a conversation then about what it's like from a parent's perspective then and kind of how you've coped over the last 12 months? Is that all right?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, crack on.
Okay, brilliant. So 1 year ago today, obviously your lives were turned kind of upside down with Ellie having a stroke. As I mentioned, we did a stroke storm. We got some incredible comments and interactions and lots of people being inspired by Ellie and kind of her resilience and also what you guys have done. But can you give us a bit of an insight as to what it's like from your perspective as a father, John, seeing your daughter go through, a stroke at the age of 19?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, like leading into it, there was no signs that something like that was about to happen. I think 3 days before, she'd just been to Mallorca with her friends. Was it Holly, Emma,
Alicia,
and a few others. Come back again, no signs, all fine. I think we went out. We had a belated Father's Day because she was away for Father's Day last year. Yeah, and then on June the 19th itself, went to work, didn't you?
yeah.
As normal. Again, no signs. Then she returned home that night. Luckily, I mean, your name of the charity is a stroke of luck. On that particular evening, there was a few stroke of lucks that went in Ellie's favour that night. Obviously, what was ultimately going to happen wasn't lucky at all. But there was a few things that happened that night that were. I think the stroke happened about 10:30. Now, she normally finishes work around 10:30, but she finished work early that night. So she drove home from her work in the Evenwood pub, not far from us here in Runcorn. Arrived home, we give her dinner, had a little chat as we normally do. Me and Marie, we was in work the next day, so we went to bed. But for some reason, literally 10 minutes after going to bed, Marie thought I needed to say something to Ellie. So she come back downstairs and we're talking 10 minutes between going to bed, speaking to Ellie and going to bed. Anyway, Marie come down and obviously found Ellie then she couldn't speak, he couldn't move.
Yeah.
The whole of the right hand side of the body was gone. So Marie shouted me and I come in. And for the first few minutes, obviously, you don't know what's going on. But the longer it went on, I said to Marie, I think she's having a stroke. I've done first aiding work and stuff like that. But at 19, you think, well, it can't be. So ambulance is phoned. It seemed like it lasted forever, that wait.
Yeah.
The ambulance service were on the phone the whole time. They were brilliant. But for some reason, something must have also been going on. And we had to wait for an ambulance from Chester.
Right.
It took a little bit longer, but not a lot. It wasn't no real big wait for them to arrive. But anyway, they arrived, and they see Ellie was dressed, just finished work in a pub. Because of her age, I don't think they really believed it was a stroke. So they were thinking, has she been drugged? Is she drunk? And we said, no, she's just drove home from work. She's got a car. It's like a family sort of restaurant. It's not a bustling city centre pub or nothing like that. So there's no way she's drunk. There's no way she's been spiked or nothing like that.
Yeah.
But they weren't. You definitely didn't go down the stroke road straight away. And I don't. And you wouldn't at 19, even though I thought she could have been. Obviously, ambulance service will probably have a big list of stuff to go down before they say, yeah, that's what it is. But anyway, because they were from Chester, they said, right, what hospital do you want to go to? Now, Warrington is probably the nearest one from us, but it's not got a good reputation. And
Right.
luckily, my wife said, no, let's go to Whiston. It's a little bit further, but the journey to it with a new bridge over the Mersey and stuff like that, it's a lot easier. So she said, no, we'll go to Whiston. It's a better hospital. We'll go there. And again, luckily for us, that is where the stroke unit is. So if she had gone to Warrington, she'd have then had to have gone to Whiston anyway. And as you know, it's all about time when you have a stroke. So that probably saved a good hour or so of messing about, waiting in A&E and stuff like that. Can you see us? We've just lost you there.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can see you.
Right, yeah. So just that decision again then, for Marie to say, no, let's go Whiston, that probably give Elly another hour, at least, I'd say, of time. And as you know, having a stroke,
critical.
I used to see the adverts on telly, fast, and you take notice of it. It was a powerful advert if you cast your mind back to a couple of years. But yeah, that was that's the time frame that Elly had from when it happened to us finding out when it happened, and to get into Whiston was. It seemed an eternity, but it really wasn't. It was probably within an hour of Elly having a stroke. We were probably at Whiston Hospital.
Really? That quickly?
Yeah.
And what were your emotions like at the time, John? How were you feeling?
Well, obviously, I mean, getting to the hospital, we didn't know it was a stroke. We didn't really know what it was.
Yeah.
But as soon as we got through the A&E process, and once you got to Whiston, as soon as the actual doctor come out and he took one look at her, he's only a young bloke, and he knew straight away. As soon as he see her, alarm bells were ringing with him.
Yeah.
And again, a stroke of luck. The stroke doctor lived in Widnes, 10, 20 minutes away from Whiston.
Yeah.
And he was there. He was on call, and bang, he was there.
Brilliant.
And straight away, he took one look at her. He knew exactly what it was. Sent her straight in for a brain scan and stuff like that. And as soon as they had the brain scan, they knew straight away. And then obviously that, boom, you're into a completely different world. I mean, by then, luckily, from me and Marie's point of view, and Elly's, like Chelsea, Michael, her brother, Chelsea's a sister, Michael, her brother, was there, and Lee, and because me and Marie, we didn't know where we were.
Yeah, of course.
So the next thing that happened was, right, we need to give, I'll make sure I pronounce it right, it was a thrombolus injection.
Yeah.
But before he even done it, obviously with Elly being a woman, certain times in a month and stuff like that, because of that, once you give that injection, there was the possibility that she might have to have a hysterectomy. So not only is she had a stroke, she's then had to have this emergency treatment, but then they're telling us that she may then have to go back into another theatre to have hysterectomy. And again, luck was on our side, and that didn't happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's an awful lot to deal with, isn't it? That's an awful lot to deal with. That's
just all within, from 10:30 till probably about, I'd say 12, maybe midnight. Yeah.
Wow.
Within 2 hours. Yeah.
Wow. So Elly's taken to Whiston Hospital. As you said, it's kind of within an hour of you believing that she's had a stroke.
Yeah.
She then goes off to the Walton Centre, and I know the Walton Centre in Liverpool pretty well because I'm under the care of a neurologist there because of the dissection of my artery, and I go there on a relatively regular basis, and I think they're a great team there. So Elly was taken there to have a craniotomy. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, after A&E, she went to the acute stroke ward at Whiston.
Yeah.
So obviously, while she was there, she was under, like, every half an hour there was a doctor and a nurse that come in. They checked over Elly because they knew, one, this doesn't happen to young people very often, and obviously obviously training experience tells them that when it does happen to a young person and you have a blood clot, it's not good. So she was in the acute stroke ward for, I mean, it's a blur now, but it was probably about 6-7 hours or so.
Okay.
She's getting checked on every half an hour, but they were in constant contact with Walton. Now at the time, we just thought they was waiting for a bed. But what they were doing, if you remember last week, Paul who was on.
Yeah.
He
He's on
actually
again
had
watching this.
the thrombotomy, didn't he?
Yeah.
What they were doing was trying, and we only found out this months later when we spoke to the actual stroke consultant. What they were doing, they were trying to get a team together to do that. But in Walton, they couldn't get the team together to do it because it's such a complex operation.
Yeah.
You need a certain team together to do it, and if your stroke happens between 9 to 5, you've got a good chance that you've got that group of people together.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the time it happened with Elly, I mean, you're now talking 6-7 o'clock in the morning. You couldn't get that team together. I think the whole team, somebody might have been on annual leave or something like that. But what they were trying to do, there was the possibility of getting a helicopter to take her to Leeds. That was something else they were looking at. But again, it couldn't happen. So what the next thing was, right, Walton Centre, get checked out. And I said, then she arrives at the Walton Centre, and again, it felt like an eternity, but it wasn't. She got processed through there. 2 doctors come. They checked her over, and they said, right, boom, I think she went for another brain scan. And that's when they knew her brain was swelling that much, because you're probably talking a good over 12 hours after the stroke.
Yeah.
Obviously, the younger you are, the bigger your brain is. Once it gets to your skull, it causes far more damage than the stroke can do.
Yeah.
And that's when, I mean, we're talking about emotions and stuff like that. That's when it really gets serious, because Elly gets taken away from us then.
Yeah, of course.
Leading up to that, we was all together. There was, by this time, we had like San and Danny, our friends, and their daughters. Marie's brother Robbie had turned up with his wife Jo. We had a big support network, and at Whiston, you could have put 20 people in that room. They didn't care. They just wanted everybody with Elly.
Yeah.
And then by the time we got to Walton, she was taken away from us then. And then you're like, And then you go, I don't know if you've ever been to the intensive care unit at the Walton Centre. It's like there's like a waiting room in there. It's a big purple room. There's a big picture of Anglesey on it, which was good for me in a way, because we've got friends who have got a place in Anglesey, and we go there, and for some strange reason, it was just a little bit of calming, it just sort of took your mind away from it a little bit by looking at that. But we was in there, and then once we was in there, we knew it weren't good.
Yeah.
The potential of it wasn't good. And then they basically come in and said, right, we need to do an emergency operation on Elly.
Yeah.
Was a cranium anatomy, make sure I pronounce it right. It's all words we've never heard before. And we didn't know why they were doing it. So she was carted off, and then we didn't see her for a couple of hours, obviously, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
That's an awful lot to take in, isn't it? For Elly, obviously herself,
Yeah.
but for you as her immediate family, that's I can't imagine the emotions you're going through. So kind of well done for you all for getting through this journey, which is an incredible challenge, and it's a huge shift in kind of the journey of life you're once treading to all of a sudden have this as a huge hurdle, and to be able to navigate it and overcome it. So after the craniotomy surgery that happened at the Walton Centre, Elly was then taken back to Wiston, wasn't she, for a period of initial rehabilitation for, what, 6 weeks or so, something like that, before she was then moved over to St Helens, where she continued her recovery journey for a further 7 months in hospital before she was even kind of allowed home. So that's a huge amount of time that she spent in 3 different hospitals, and the last 2 going through rehabilitation. So during that 7-month period, how did you as a family deal with that? What was it like? What was it like for you?
Yeah, well, I mean, so after the initial Walton experience, obviously she was in the ICU, and then within a couple of days of coming out of like intensive care, there was debate where she was going to go. Then it was decided, yes, she's going to Wiston. Yeah, but as soon as we got to Wiston, the staff there were amazing, absolutely amazing. Because if anyone who's been to a stroke ward, you know that it's not full of 19-year-olds. It's full of a lot of older people.
Yeah.
And there's people with Alzheimer's. They're not just stroke patients. They've got a hell of a lot. Oh, can you hear me still? Yeah, we lost you for a minute there.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you and I can see you. Are you still there? Hello, can people hear and see me? I'm not too sure whether it's my internet that's been affected. But it just looks like Elly's left. So I'm just going to see if we can get her to rejoin the session. Before I do, though, can everybody hear me okay? Okay, I think potentially I'm getting some feedback to say it could well be John and Elly's signal that's a bit of a struggle at the moment. So we'll see if they join the session again. But this is an incredible story that, you know, John and his family and Elly have been through. I can't imagine. I'm a father to 2 daughters. I can't imagine what it must be like for a father to see their young daughter go through these challenges. And yeah, emotionally, it must be incredibly draining. And also the worry, the concern. Yeah, I can't imagine it. Right, I'm just seeing if they are able to join. Maybe it's their internet rather than mine here. Look, here we go. See if we can add them again. I'll just wait a couple of seconds.
Right, we lost you for a minute there. You're back.
There we go. You're back. Yeah,
I
think potentially John and Elly, it might have been your signal. So I got some messages up saying people could still hear and see me, but they'd lost you.
But we'd lost you. Yeah.
Okay, well you're back. You're back.
Yeah. So I think So obviously we're now at Wiston Hospital in a stroke ward that is probably, I'd say, 99% sort of elderly people with Alzheimer's and stuff like that. So, but as soon as we got there, the staff were actually they were amazing. You know what I mean? They some of the nurses they realised Elly was young, and us as a family, they literally just let us do not what we wanted, but me and Marie were allowed to be there. We could have been there 24 hours a day if we could have done. But we'd spend 12 hours a day there easy. And when it comes to visitors, they did as long as it didn't disrupt the running of the ward, they were happy for visitors to come and see Elly, because we were spending 12 hours a day at that ward at that time. And for Elly, obviously she's just come out of intensive care and stuff like that. She couldn't communicate with anybody. She could only move the right-hand side of her body. She was getting fed through a tube. Obviously she couldn't go to the toilet and stuff like that. So it wasn't a nice place to be a 19-year-old in hospital. So straight away, the whole ward just allowed us to be there, because it made their job easier as well. You know what I mean? And then they were straight in, the physiotherapists, the nurse. I mean, was it Kate? Cheryl, was it Gemma?
Yeah.
Within, I'd say, probably the first couple of days of her being there, the therapy started there and then.
Yeah.
And it was good for us, and we was included in that because we were there from, I think, we'd probably leave you at what, 10:30?
Yeah.
And we'd be back again at sort of 9:30, 10 o'clock the next day.
Yeah.
For us, I mean, it just take for that 6 weeks period. That's all we did. We ate where we could in the restaurant at Whiston and stuff like that. You were basically based at the hospital. But yeah, that initial part at Whiston, the staff there are amazing. There was a young nurse who really, I think, was her name Kaylee?
Kaylee, yeah.
She just took a shine to Elly and understood that she was young. She was a young nurse as well. And she sort of took Elly under her wing. She probably got in trouble because there was probably other things she should have been doing. But she'd be watching the telly with you and stuff like that. And she sort of understood Elly. As I mean, she'd only been in mid-20s maybe, but she understood Elly, which was a massive thing for when we weren't there, because obviously we couldn't spend 24 hours a day there. So,
of course, and you know, I spoke earlier about the analogy I came up with the A team, and I honestly believe that, you know, Elly's making a remarkable recovery and her progress is extreme. And it's down to you, John. It's down to all of the people that make up Elly's A team. But it's also down to that nurse that you just mentioned, you know, the one that spent the time to care, to watch TV with Elly. That is what the A team is all about. It's that support network that transitions a survivor from kind of immediate stroke and what next, to take them through that ongoing recovery journey through the rest of their life, to ensure that they can live as fulfilled life as possible. And I genuinely believe that, you know, what you're talking about there, from being there from 9:30 in the morning till 9:30, 10 at night, had a massive positive impact on the recovery that Elly's experienced, and that we can all see. So I mentioned earlier, and we all know that it's the first year of Elly's anniversary, and you popped on your own social media today, a kind of video diary tracking that last 12 months. And to see where Elly was 12 months ago today to where she is now, you know, sat next to you with me on this live session, it's kind of mind-blowing, the recovery that she's made, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, she's inspirational. I mean, she's kept us going through this, to be honest, because I can only, and it's no exaggeration, I could probably say 5 times I've seen her cry and upset for one reason or another, but a spirit and a drive to say, this ain't the end of me. This is the start of something else, and everybody feels it when they're with her. She just doesn't get down in the dumps. I mean, sometimes at work you get depressed over this and that or whatever. But
that's natural.
When you look at what she's been through and where she's literally had to learn to swallow. She's had to learn to drink, had to brush her teeth. She's getting fed through a tube. So the first massive hurdle for her was to get that tube. And when she hated it. If any, probably about 3 of the times you cried was down to that tube, because it's horrible. I mean, I've never had one, but you could see it. It's, your nose is red raw. You're basically getting fed from a little bottle, and it's not nice. And the first thing she thought was, "I'm coming off that bottle," wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the nurses couldn't believe it as she was trying to sort of, that was her first goal, and she smashed that. The second goal was the catheter, because no one wants to be on nothing like that. And the nurses sat us down and basically said, it's make or break this. You know what I mean? She could be inconstant. We don't know because it's still early with a brain injury.
Yeah.
Smashed that straight away. So within the first few weeks, I think we knew that she's not going to take this one lying down. She's going to. So that give everybody else. I mean, there was that many visitors coming to see Elly. We had literally a WhatsApp group of people saying, can I come at this time? And because obviously you can't have 20, 30 people in.
No.
Because it is a stroke ward at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I said, we sorted it out, and there was constant people there. So the support she had, and as soon as they come to see her, they're like, wow. And it sort of, everybody was in awe of her, to be honest. And we still are.
Yeah, and to be honest, you can see why. You can see that you're an incredibly proud dad, and rightly so. You know, the courage your daughter shows, Ellie. You're a remarkable young lady, and I've seen the feedback of that. You know, the story that was published on our social media and our website had so many engagements where people were talking stroke survivors themselves and also support networks around stroke survivors saying they're going to use you as a beacon of kind of a focus for them to support their own recovery journey. You know, if you can do it, other people can do it. But you're clearly a very, very special individual, Ellie, that's got a resolve that is so strong. And you're right to be proud of her, John. You're absolutely right to be proud of her, because the transformation in 12 months is remarkable.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you go back to Walton. After she had the craniotomy, they sat us down and they basically said, because they don't gloss nothing over. It's black and white. And they basically said,
they've got to be honest, haven't they?
We don't know because the first question I said was, how much of Ellie are we getting back here? And they said, well, we don't know. She's the part of the brain that's damaged it's not repairable, but it's there and it's damaged.
Yeah.
But then obviously the weeks after, you learn that the brain can find new routes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so the therapy staff at Whiston at that time, they drummed that into us, because you went from the doctors who deal in facts, it's black and white, and then once you got into Whiston, the therapists are like that. Oh no, the brain, you'd be surprised with the brain. And they were amazing, because it really give us and Ellie the strength, because they were working with you constantly to say, no, that's not the end of it. You know what I mean? And it's up to you to change that. You can retrain your brain, and Ellie's proved it.
She has.
You know what I mean?
She has, and kind of 7 months in hospital is an awful long time for Ellie to deal with as an individual, and for you as a family, as a support network to deal with. So we've got that beautiful photo that, you know, thankfully you shared and you gave to us for us to be able to show on the stroke story of Ellie arriving home with the balloons and kind of welcome home. What was that moment like for you, Ellie, and what was it like for you, John, when, you know, you were able to take your daughter, and Ellie, you were able to leave that hospital ward and arrive back at home? What was that like?
Freedom. Yeah. I mean, don't forget, obviously she had 6 weeks at Whiston, and then the longer period to that was at the Seddon. So I can't forget the Seddon Suite. We've got so much about Whiston. The Seddon Suite is an absolute amazing place in it, and it was a long time for Ellie to be there. But again, like Whiston, the support we got off there of family and friends. We had obviously the people that were there from the beginning. We had like Lynn and Dean, and they wouldn't miss their visit once a week. And if they did have to miss it, they'd be gutted. And there was others. We mate Gary and Nick. They'd come all the way from sort of Holmes Chapel once a week. They'd come all the way to St Helens and see her with so many different people. Obviously, all your nieces and nephews, and because like Ellie's got a brother Michael and sister Chelsea. They've all got kids, and I mean, at one point, the sort of like the visiting room there was everybody in there was to see Ellie, because obviously the table only had 3 or 4 or 5 seats or whatever it was. We took over but they were so happy with that. Ellie's friends used to come and see you. Like different groups of friends would come, and they'd be laughing and joking, and we'd say, "Oh, we apologise," and they said, "Don't apologise. Laughter and stuff like that, it's good for everybody."
Absolutely.
Even if you're in the room next door and you don't get any visitors, just listening to that laughter, they said that's good therapy. But yeah, I mean, the Seddon, what they do there is amazing, and we didn't only just see that with Ellie. We see the other, because I was there 7 months. Yeah. In that 7 months, we see so many different people come and go, and you see them come in, and you think, stay there, and then they walk away from there, and honestly, you can't believe it. But Ellie was inspiring to some of them. There's a book called
Absolutely, yeah.
Crime, yeah. And I'm not sure why he was in Seddon, but he couldn't walk at the time. He was quite a big bloke. But Elly was walking. He'd see Elly gone from wheelchair to walking. And I think he said to his family, if she can do it, I can do it. And within a few weeks, he was walking around the walls with his walking stick and stuff like that. So the Seddon suite was absolutely amazing. Yeah. But to leave it, you was absolutely over the moon, weren't you?
Yeah, well, that one word, isn't it? Freedom. It's the freedom to leave that environment, to go back to your home environment. And unfortunately, kind of for all of you, as you were leaving hospital, not so long after, coronavirus hit, which has obviously had an impact on the rehabilitation and recovery you were due to have, I guess, at home. So it'd be quite interesting for me to hear, and also for those that are listening, as to how you've coped with that as a family. Because I'm fairly certain, you know, I was part of the early discharge team. So I had occupational therapy at home, I had physiotherapy. I didn't need speech and language. I was extremely fortuitous that it didn't affect my speech. But I did have a lot of therapy at home. But that hasn't been able to, I guess, happen for you during the crisis. So how have you dealt with that?
Well, I mean, literally 2 weeks before coronavirus, Elly gets out of hospital. And
2 weeks?
2 weeks, yeah. Well,
wow.
I mean, she got out on the 6th of March, and I think we was in lockdown by the end of March, weren't we? So I think we had a couple of initial visits from the Halton team, and yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that, and then the next thing, lockdown, everything had stopped. But I think, I mean, I was in work, so I sort of, all the therapy that Elly's had with Marie, my wife, I've been sort of at work, I missed a lot of it. But I think being involved in that therapy at Whiston and the Seddon Suite, that's give Marie the confidence to take the mantle of therapist. Now she works in pharmacy, no experience in therapy whatsoever, but with the different tools that they've given her with what they can, the results that she's produced, it's amazing. It's amazing, really is.
It is.
Everything, walking, your speech, the thing. I mean, even one thing that come from Elly's therapy was she didn't present like an average stroke patient. The therapist would have to go back to other therapists and say, listen, she doesn't want, initially to move, obviously her right side was affected. To move her right side, she had to move her left hand as well. If she'd done it in conjunction, it was fine. But she couldn't do it in isolation.
Right.
And it really sort of knocked them. How are we going to get around this? And they tried everything, didn't they? There was the NHS. I know. I mean, a lot of people give it a lot of bad press, but there was no expense spared for Elly. There really wasn't. They tried everything to get that right hand going. Because your legs weren't too bad, were they? Yeah. But the right hand was really awkward. One day it would do it, the next day it wouldn't. As I said, you could. I mean, even the Dr. Hill, who's the stroke consultant, really well respected in the sort of in stroke circles. He told us about I think she was Olympic swimmer, Paralympic swimmer, because she had a similar problem to Elly, but because both arms moved in conjunction, she was actually an amazing swimmer in that stroke. When they both went together, she was a gold medalist. So he's saying it's not the end of the world, but again, Elly's willpower, she worked around it. You know what I mean? So she's
and that willpower and that courage is highly commendable. But also, John, it should be recognised. You know, the work that you and particularly, as you mentioned, your wife has done during this crisis to support Elly with her. You know, I guess you know your wife has played, and your mum Elly has played the role of an occupational therapist, a physiotherapist. Every skilled individual that comes and supports a stroke survivor's journey through recovery, your family have played that part, and that's an incredible thing to hear, and that gives me so much pleasure to hear that families are uniting around the stroke survivor and
supporting people, you know, as their A team on their recovery journey, because you can see the progress, can't you? You must see that, John, on a day-to-day and a week-to-week basis, the progress that Elly makes.
Oh, definitely. Even just going to work and coming back, and Marie will say, "Oh, she's done this today," and you can see it. Like, just, I mean, you've probably seen walking has progressed from sort of the therapist moving her legs to a tripod walking stick to just a single walking stick to walking without a walking stick. Now, a lot of that she's done in lockdown. That's down to Elly and Marie, really sort of, because what Seven had, they had a set routine of therapy sessions, and that's basically what Marie did at home. She said, right, you get up, you have your breakfast, we're going to do speech at 11, we'll do your fingers at 12, we'll do, and then we'll go for a walk, stuff like that. You know what I mean? So she kept that sort of regimental sort of type, which it was at Seven. Which, end of day therapy, it's got to be continuous. You can't have a couple of days off and do it.
Can't dip out.
It's got to be repetitive, and it works. As simple as that.
That's incredible. Well, the comments, I'm seeing streams of comments in around kind of praising you as a family on the support that you've given Elly, praising Elly on kind of her courage and her resilience, which is great. There was one comment I did make, and I'm going to ask you this, and this is left field. Someone said that your wife, John, makes really good cakes. Is this true?
Well, that's another thing they've been doing. They've been doing a lot of cakes, yeah.
Right. When lockdown's over, I'm coming round for a cup of tea and a cake then, that Marie makes.
Well, if you do that, then I'm coming round yours for a tomahawk steak. I've seen one of them on your Instagram. It's very good.
More than welcome. You're more than welcome. So obviously this is a big celebration for you, Elly, and for the family. You know, it's your 1 year anniversary, and I'm sure that everybody that's tuned in watching this kind of will echo what I'm just about to say. And congratulations, and keep fighting and keep being you, because you're inspirational to survivors out there. You're obviously inspiring your family, and to you, John, you know, what is absolutely shining through is your level of pride. And you know, that is so heartwarming and actually quite emotional. It's incredible. Is there anything, you know, we've talked very openly. You've been incredibly honest about what it's like from a father's perspective and listening to Elly speak. Is there anything else you guys want to add at all?
I'd just like to say, since we're on like the Instagram sort of platform, initially when all this happened, you're looking for, has it happened to anybody else? And there were so many people on Instagram, once you start putting hashtags in for young stroke survivor and stuff like that, the messages of support you received of people that were in that situation. I mean, there was, we come across Jeff's journey. I think they're one of I think they're one of your ambassadors. There was a lady called Candice whose young daughter had a stroke. She'd send us lovely messages. I think it was Louise Reed, wasn't it, from Nottingham. She had a PFO, basically. Obviously, I think we missed this bit, but basically Elly's stroke, they reckon, was caused by a hole in the heart.
Right.
A quarter of the population he's born with. Anyway, I managed to, through hashtags and stuff like that, this lady, Louise Reed, she's like a marathon runner and stuff like that. She's had the whole field, she had a stroke. She's running marathons, but she sent Elly a lovely letter. You know what I mean? And he really sort of thought, I'm not alone, and other people have. So I'd just like to thank, obviously, the sort of Instagram stroke community, because it really is a massive help when you think you're in that world all alone, and then you start searching for things and you think, well, I'm not. You know what I mean? But Elly would like a couple of words, wouldn't you?
Yeah, thank you for
trying to get okay.
Thank you, Craig, for sharing my story.
No problem at all. It's an absolute pleasure, Elly. Absolute pleasure to see someone like you. You know, you inspire me. So for me personally, and for what we are as a new charity, to have you as kind of what I see as part of my A team and part of a Stroke of Luck's A team is remarkable. And you know, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a pleasure to be chatting to you over the last few weeks and months. And, you know, I look forward to continue watching you progress and watching you flourish in life, because I have absolutely no doubts that you will. And John, I look forward to your posts and, your support, and yeah, you're a remarkable family and a remarkable individual, Elly. So it's all a pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, John, Elly, thanks ever so much for joining me this evening on tonight's live session. I'm absolutely certain that people have got an awful lot from listening to your story as a father and as part of Elly's A team, and also from Elly's kind of journey herself. So thank you both ever so much indeed. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure lots of people watching do as well.
No, we enjoyed it, didn't we?
Good, good. Well, have a great weekend, guys. Hopefully the weather will change and we might enjoy a little bit of sunshine. But yeah, stay safe and have a great weekend.
Yeah, nice one. Cheers, Craig. See ya.
Take care. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Wow. That was extremely emotional for the whole of that live, but especially right at the end when Elly spoke. I know that she's suffered with aphasia, and it is Aphasia Awareness Month this month. So for Elly to do that and have the courage to get live on an Instagram is incredible. So I hope everybody that's joined the session today has enjoyed listening to both John and Elly. Next week, I've got a stroke survivor joining us, a guy by the name of Nick Canny, who joins all of our live sessions each week. Nick suffers with aphasia as well, so he's going to be joined by or with his wife for next Friday's live session, and I'm absolutely certain a lot of you are going to be inspired to listen to his story and how he's coped with being a stroke survivor. All it's left for me to say, as I say every end to a Friday live session, is stay safe, look after one another, be there to support one another if people need that support, and thank you ever so much for joining us on the A Stroke of Luck Friday live sessions. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next Friday. Bye for now.